In today's lesson, we're going to be learning vocabulary for some IELTS Part 1 questions, and I'm joined by a special guest. It's Connor. Now, if you've been following my channel, you'll know Connor as someone who gives intelligent answers and uses a lot of great vocabulary. Connor is the latest teacher on Cambly. Cambly is an e-learning platform for English-speaking tutors and courses. You can find online native teachers 24/7, and you can choose your tutor based on their background and experience. Cambly has kindly sponsored today's lesson and has given me a promo code for all of you guys. If you use the code ELI2023, then you get a free trial lesson and an exclusive discount of up to 40% on the yearly plan. If you're interested in Cambly, then stick around until the end of the lesson, because I'll be showing you my top 3 ways that you can use Cambly to help you with your IELTS preparation. But for now, on with the lesson. The first topic is concentration. Here are some questions you could get asked. Now, before we listen to Connor's answers, I want to show you 5 useful phrases that will help you if you get this topic in your IELTS test. To get easily distracted. If you get easily distracted, then you can start an activity, but then easily lose focus. For example, I get easily distracted by my mobile when I'm trying to focus on my work. Or I get easily distracted when I'm bored by what I'm doing. You could even say something like this in your IELTS test. I get easily distracted, so I have to leave my phone in another room when I'm studying. And number 2, to often procrastinate. If you often procrastinate, it means that you often delay doing something that has to be done. For example, you could say, I often procrastinate and leave my work till the last second, which means that you know there's something important that you have to do, but you keep delaying until the last moment you have to do it. The next phrase is for sustained periods of time. For sustained periods of time means constantly for a long time. For example, you could say, I find it difficult to study for sustained periods of time, which means you find it difficult to study constantly for a long period of time without getting distracted or doing something different. Or how about this sentence? When I was a child, I found it difficult to concentrate for sustained periods of time. So phrases like this and using collocations like sustained periods of time can help you to boost your IELTS score. Number 4, repetitive mundane tasks. This is a great collocation. Repetitive mundane tasks. Let's break it down. A repetitive task is something that you have to do again and again, and a mundane task is something that is dull or boring. So repetitive mundane tasks describe boring tasks that you have to do again and again. For example, for some people, washing the dishes is a repetitive mundane task. For others, perhaps folding clothes is a repetitive mundane task. So in your IELTS test, you can say, I find it difficult to do repetitive mundane tasks for sustained periods of time without getting distracted. The final phrase is stay engaged. If you stay engaged, it means that you stay interested. For example, you can say, at school, I found it difficult to stay engaged in maths class, which means that you found maths class boring and you got easily distracted. Here's a sentence which uses all of the vocabulary that we've just learned. I find it difficult to stay engaged when doing repetitive mundane tasks for sustained periods of time without getting easily distracted or procrastinating. So a sentence like that is really going to help you get a very high score in your IELTS test. Okay, let's listen to how Connor answers some questions on concentration. Let's talk about concentration. Could you stay focused in class when you were a child?
No, I find it very difficult to focus for sustained periods of time when I was younger. I wasn't sure why. I find it difficult to stay engaged with what I was being taught, but I also never really enjoyed school, and that was true throughout most of my education career up until I became a teacher. But it was the same in university. I found it very difficult to focus, to engage, and basically my ability to concentrate is tied to how much I enjoy the activity or the subject that I am engaging with.
What do you do to help you to concentrate?
Well, this is an answer I think that applies to a lot of things, but I do think it's planning quite a bit, or planning, making better plans. And a way to do that is just remove the amount of mental energy that you have to dedicate to repetitive, mundane tasks. So, for example, your ability to concentrate in the morning and study will probably be improved if you've planned what you're going to wear the night before, or you've prepared your breakfast the night before. So then when you wake up, I don't need to spend any extra energy figuring out these, again, repetitive, mundane tasks. I can just focus on the things that are actually important.
Is it difficult for you to stay focused on something nowadays?
It very much depends on the task. Through quite a bit of practice, I've got better at sustaining concentration and sustaining focus on harder and harder tasks. I think that it generally becomes easier as you get older. You develop greater self-discipline. But it really depends on tasks. So, for example, I'm very bad at maths. I'm borderline enumerate. Again, I wear a calculator watch for a reason. So it's very difficult for me to focus on, let's say, maths problems if they ever come up. But funnily enough, if you take the exact same problem and express it using words, like so a verbal problem, it's the exact Paul and John have a problem, and instead of 2x plus 3y, whatever. I can focus much better when it's a verbal problem or verbal reasoning.
When do you need to stay focused in your day-to-day life?
Also, part of my duties include quite a bit of preparation, a lot of deadlines. So I have to do a lot of recording, I have to do a lot of meetings, I have to lead a lot of people. And I'll then also have to produce my deliverables, the things I need. So the things upon which I will be judged, or my output. So I would say throughout the day, every single day. And again, that's unfortunately just part of getting older and accruing more responsibilities.
Okay, those were some great answers from Connor. Did you hear him using some of the vocabulary that we just learned in this lesson? I hope so. Now, if you're preparing for your IELTS test, then take some time to prepare your answers for these questions on concentration. The next topic is ice cream. Here are some questions you could get asked. Let's look at some useful vocabulary for this topic. Well, first of all, a good idea is to learn some different flavors of ice cream. Things like chocolate ice cream, strawberry ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and my favorite, mint choc chip. However, let's also look at some more advanced vocabulary that can help to impress the examiner. You could say, I'm not really into. For example, you could say, I'm not really into eating desserts, or I'm not really into ice cream. Or even better, I've never really been into sweet things like ice cream. So I'm not really into means you don't really like this thing. Alternatively, you could say, I'm a big fan of something, which means you really like it. So I'm a big fan of eating ice cream while I binge on Netflix series, which means you love to eat ice cream while you watch episode after episode of Netflix series, probably Succession. However, in the UK, we often use the negative of this. We say things like, I've never been a big fan of, I've never been a big fan of mint ice cream, which is a very common way of saying that you don't like mint ice cream. Or, I've never been a fan of eating desserts, which means you don't like eating desserts. Another useful phrase is, I try to avoid. So you could say things like, I like ice cream, but I try to avoid too much sugar in my diet. Or I try to avoid eating ice cream at night. So it means that you try not to do this thing. You could even say, I'm a big fan of ice cream, but I try to avoid dairy products. So dairy products are products that are made from cow's milk. Things like ice cream, cheese, and butter. The next phrase is sweet tooth. Now, if you have a sweet tooth, then you like eating sweet things. If you don't have a sweet tooth, then you don't like eating sweet things. So you could say something like, I've got a sweet tooth and enjoy all flavors of ice cream. Or, I don't really have a sweet tooth. I don't really care whether or not I eat ice cream at all. The final phrase is to be able to live without something, or to not be able to live with something. So if you can live without something, it means that you don't need it in your life. If you can't live without something, it means that you do need it in your life. Now, it's a bit of a way of exaggerating, but it is something we say regularly. So you could say something like, I couldn't live without ice cream, meaning you totally love ice cream. Or, overall, I don't have a sweet tooth and could live without eating ice cream, meaning you don't really care whether you eat ice cream or not. Let's watch how Connor answers. Let's move on. Let's talk about ice cream. Do you like eating ice cream?
Nope. I probably should expand on that. No, I do not. I haven't had ice cream for a very, very long time. The closest thing would probably be, I do take Greek yogurt, I put a little bit of peanut butter in it, I mix them and then I put it in the freezer. But that's because I generally try to avoid too much sugar in my diet. And ice cream, though it is, I understand, delicious to most people, it's kind of empty calories to me. But overall, I don't have a sweet tooth.
Did you eat ice cream when you were a child?
You know, yes, I did a lot. I ate a lot of ice cream, a lot of sweets, a lot of chocolate. I was a rather rotund young lad, you know, but not so much these days. Again, it's not that I have a strict diet. I think it's just over time, my desire to have these things has just completely disappeared.
Are there any shops selling ice cream near the place where you live?
There are actually some very famous gelaterias. It's an Italian ice cream, although I'm not sure if there's actually cream in that. I don't know. But yes, there are a few world-renowned outlets quite close to where I live.
I hope you got some good ideas from listening to Connor's answers. Again, if you've got your IELTS test coming up, then take some time to prepare your answers for these common questions on the topic of ice cream. Now, when I say prepare your answers, I don't mean memorize your answers. Just take the time to write down your answers and look for any vocabulary that would help you. Hopefully, the vocabulary in this lesson can help you with your answers that you're preparing at home. Here are my top 3 things that I think will help you with your IELTS preparation. What I recommend is to go to Tutors, click IELTS, and then look for the online tutors. You can find teachers immediately. For example, it took me just 2 minutes to start my lesson with Shadi, and we talked about IELTS and teaching Chinese students, which was great. I also like the Cambly group classes. This is a new feature of Cambly. Cambly has group classes starting almost every hour, so whenever you want to practice, you can join group classes and you'll have other students and a teacher to help you. You can filter by different levels and you'll find group classes on a range of different topics. The great thing about Cambly is there are a lot of experienced teachers. So what I'd recommend is that you go through the different tutors to find the one that fits your needs best. Remember, you can use the code ELI2023 for a free trial lesson and an exclusive discount of up to 40% on the yearly plan. Now, that's all we're going to cover in today's lesson. Remember, this lesson was sponsored by Cambly, and if you would like to do a lesson with Connor or any of the other teachers at Cambly, then use the code ELI2023 to get a free trial lesson and a 40% discount on the annual plan. Good luck with your studies, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye then.